right, guys, what's going on? Well, we're back at UNT. We're going to be talking with Jesse Morrell. As you can see, they're still out there. They're out there waiting for us. I want to follow up on my conversation that I had with him yesterday about Romans chapter 8. According to Jesse, we are in the flesh, and we cannot please God because Jesse said that to be in the flesh, to have your mind set on the flesh, is an attitude. It's not a condition. So I just want to see how he answers some of this exegesis. And so we'll do a little dividing line type exegesis right now before we go. I think this is better than dividing line. But anyway, as you can see here in the text, right, I'm going to go from verse 6 all the way down to verse 10, really, just to try to explain to him the exegesis, because here it says, the mind that is set on the flesh is death, but the mind that is of the spirit is life and peace. It's zoe kai erene. Then he says, because the mind of the flesh is ekthros, it is enmity with God. It is enmity towards God. It says, for the law of God, it does not submit to the law of God. And then it says, ugar dunatai, which is what I was trying to explain to him. Ude gar dunatai literally means does not or cannot. For indeed it cannot. It says it does not or cannot. It does. It says for it is not able. There you go. Yeah, dunatai. That's right. And then it says, but you are not in the flesh. And so that's the problem. Jesse's saying that being in the flesh and having a mind hostile to God is an attitude that even Christians can have. But Paul says right here very plainly, that's what he's saying here, hoide en sarkiantas theo, says, but you are not in the flesh. But he says here, he says, for those who are in the flesh, what does it say here? Those who are in the flesh. Oh, please. So those who are in the flesh cannot please God. That's what he's saying here. But he says, but you are not in the flesh. Verse 9, there it is. But you are not in the flesh, but in the spirit. He says here. And in verse 10, this is what I was trying to show him. In verse 10 it says, Ede Christa en humi. It says, but you are in Christ. And so right there, the Apostle Paul is making a very clear distinction between those who are in the flesh versus those who are in Christ. Those who are in Christ are believers. Those who are in the flesh are non-believers. Those who have not had their nature changed. And thus, because they haven't had their nature changed, it talks about what they're able to do. So it says basically they're powerless. And so if you're not in Christ, you are powerless in your enmity to God. So ekthros means that's all you have when you're in the flesh. All you have is enmity and hostility, and you are at odds. You are at war with God. As Van Til would say, we are all wrong with God. And so you must, by the Spirit, be in Christ. And so let's see what Jesse has to say today.
What verses were they again?
That's Romans chapter 8, verses 6 through 10.
6 through 10. All right, guys, I'll be going live in just a couple of minutes. We're heading out there with our half-mile hailer, and we'll see you later.